What do we need to build a new bridge for? That's expensive. Let's take that money and put it towards First Avenue. You know, so all of those kind of things can happen. You just have to be smart about it. And you know, there's no answer right this minute for you. I can't tell you how to fund it, but I know that you guys can figure it out. Yes.
I think one of the beauties of this being presented with this kind of master plan is that people can pick off the part that they are particularly interested in and take that on, and not be discouraged by the enormity of everything that has to be done.
Yeah.
So if there's something that really appeals to you, make that your project, not the whole thing.
Absolutely. We always say, you know, to make a grand vision happen, it takes champions. And I see that you have champions in your elected officials, and I see citizens who are going to be champions. I just know it. But you guys have to really think about it in that way, and that you know, you can't count on the other person who likes it. I'm sure everyone likes it too. I think it's great, you know. So I'll just let them handle it. You know, you've got to participate in it. And you know, who's going to make the first T-shirt? You know, it's really, you got to. It's like a status symbol. It's like, I'm the one who made that T-shirt for First Avenue, Friends of First Avenue. Yes.
I was just curious. Like 30 years ago or so, I lived in a town where there was a nice little downtown and lots of little stores and such. And then there was a trend across the country to open up the malls, and everybody went to malls. And everything downtown closed, and nobody walked down there. So everybody drove to the malls. So it's almost like we're going. I don't know if it's a cycle or if it's a trend. In other words, in 30 years, are we going to? Right now we're trying to get everything back into town, and then is it going to go back again out to the malls? Or, you know, that's what I'm just struggling with, that our town had that, and we let it go.
Right.
And, you know, I don't know if they're trying to do more to research it, because I haven't been back there for a long time, but I'm just curious, is this a trend across the country? And do you see that? There's a lot of little towns in Maine, too, where you see unclosed stores in the downtown, but the Walmarts of the world are all open and big, and the strip malls are where everybody's going. So I'm just curious, it seems like a cycle.
Yes, a lot of retail things that happen in retail are definitely cyclical, and they kind of ebb and flow and things. But the other trend besides the mall, and maybe trend is actually a word that has some sort of scientific basis to it. So let's use the term fad. You know, so fad. We don't. You know, hopefully this isn't a fad. The other fad that went on for a while was the idea of bypassing your historic core through places like Route 1, right? And you see what happened. And actually Route 1 was your mall, essentially, and it just obliterated the market in your downtown, right? Because it was so convenient and auto-friendly, you know? And that's what people wanted while we had that sort of lapse in judgment for about 50 years, you know? Now, the thing that's interesting is the entirety of human habitation before we had this moment of amnesia was that you had to make places of walkable character. You had to attract people to come to your place, you know? You couldn't just be about proximity. Yes, if you're near a natural resource, you're in good shape. If you're near water, but you had to attract people with a place they wanted to be. And so now we're getting back to the wisdom that we forgot for that short amount of time in human habitation. This is, you know, for the past 50 years, that's like the first time that we stopped having to live together and spread ourselves out, and we see what's happened. So I feel pretty good and pretty confident about this not being a fad, that it not even being a trend, that it's just using the wisdom of ages. And keep in mind too, that you guys in this region have held on to this wisdom longer than most people. And you didn't go crazy like most people. Where I come from, it was just out of control for a long time, you know? And we see all the negative consequences. So I wouldn't worry about that. Because if you stick with things that are principle-based, that are tried and true, timeless ideas, you're going to be better off. If you're going to have to bet on one thing or the other, I'd stick with the way humans have lived for the millennia versus how we did it for a while when we got excited about our cars. Yes?
Just a practical question again. If the zoning, the new form-based zoning code,
Character-based.
character-based zoning, so you have the character and the buildings will address the street, and it appears as if it's in a fairly linear. Each building is going to be more or less up to the same footprint or face. One of the issues that we have is with the right-of-way with Route 1, where the actual road moves from one side or the other.
Yes.
You've got great expanses of right-of-way empty on one side, and on the other side, in a lot of places, virtually nothing. You know, the parking lot is adjacent to the right-of-way.
Right.
So if we, wouldn't it be critical in order to implement and get the outcome that that character-based zoning would want, that we first get the right-of-way straightened out, so that if you have a building, let's say the marketplace, and you've got the zoning in place, and Marcel has an epiphany, he says, I want to do this tomorrow, and you say you've got to address the street and come up to the right-of-way, he's still 100 feet from the road.
Yeah.
How do we do that?
Yeah, that's a great point, and that's been the bane of our existence for the past 4 days. You're crazy right of way. Like, I wish there were flags all along so you could see what it looks like. It's kind of like this and like that and like this, and and so what we had to do is figure out a number of solutions to deal with those different moments, and that's where we the beauty of that median kind of helps mitigate those things. But that's exactly why we started that discussion about could the right-of-way property become available so you could get the buildings exactly where they needed to be. Now, in some of the drawings that we were showing, it looks pretty regular. The zoning ordinance would allow for some flexibility within reason. You wouldn't be between 10 and 100 feet setback. It would be, let's say, between, in some of the areas that we did the measuring, it was like between 3 and 18 feet. So you get some of that natural, organic look to it. So it's not so rigid, but that doesn't solve those issues in particular. So in some cases, we have to use techniques like doing an attached green, so it looks like a civic space, like you meant to do it. It's not like, what's that way over there? It's like, oh, look, that's so cool how it sets back like that. So it takes a lot of finesse and sort of surgical precision to do it exactly right, but the zoning ordinance can provide for that. And then kind of like these other big ideas, having those conversations with the DOT about making the right-of-way available. It may or may not happen, so nothing can be dependent upon it, but let's start that conversation now, and so it's like, it was great too, just, one thing I haven't said enough about, I haven't said anything about it, in fact, is, I don't know how much time you guys get to spend with Nat, but he's amazing. Like, we don't see guys like this in every town we work in. I mean, it's just like such an asset that you guys have here. So this is the smallest, most insignificant example of all the things he's done for us this week. But, I said, hey, what about this right of way? Is it possible? Can we talk to DOT about this? And he was gone for like 20 minutes, and he came back, and he's like, oh, here's what they said. And I literally thought it would take 2 weeks, because in most towns we work in, we ask the town manager or the mayor or whoever, ask them a question, they come back, like the Planapalooza is over, they come back, hey, I finally happened to pass the guy from DOT on the street the other day and asked him what you want to know. Like, this guy gets stuff done, so I think, can we give him a round of applause? So, I'll sit here as long as you want. I think that I have lots of hope for you guys to make this happen. This won't be the last you'll see of us. We'll be back to present the character-based zoning ordinance once we finish with it, and to get input and all those kinds of things. Have to go through the official process, just like any other zoning change would. Thank you guys so much for participating. See you later.